Welcome, sales and marketing pros, to Making Sales Social Live, coming to you from the Social Sales Link virtual studios. I'm Bob Woods. Bryn Tillman is off today, but our co host, Stan Robinson, is here to talk about a real exciting subject today. How you doing, Stan?
Doing excellent, Bob. Look forward to today's topic.
Yeah, today I'm really looking forward to. We're diving into a topic that's become increasingly relevant in our industry, and it seems like it gets more and more relevant every single day, and that's navigating the ethical boundaries of AI in sales. So as AI continues to evolve, we are seeing it like daily. It it's amazing the speed that things are evolving at. It's crucial that we understand not just its capabilities, but also the ethical implications it brings to our sales strategies. We're going to be exploring how to leverage AI responsibly, ensuring that our approaches remain transparent, fair, and beneficial for both businesses internally and customers. In other words, treating customers externally. And as always, you can put your questions in chat and we will answer those along the way. So, Stan, when you think of AI and sales ethics, what comes to mind for you?
One thing that comes to mind is that artificial intelligence is being integrated into so many sales tools right now that everyone is going to have to learn how to sort of navigate it, so to speak. We'll be talking more about issues like bias and that type of thing. And hopefully, the major platforms that are integrating these tools are taking those things into consideration because it's something that's going to be affecting a lot of people. One other thought that did come to mind,
Mhm.
since voice is going to be an increasingly important part of AI, some companies will be using artificial intelligence to do outbound
Yes,
outreach, and not just via email, but via phone calls.
yes.
So one big question, and the regulators will probably have to tackle this, is okay, if you get a call from an AI, does it need to identify itself as an AI that's talking to you?
Yeah, and then what if the company decides to start using, their reps' voices if they're not identifying as AI, and they've got a crew of sales development reps, SDR, for example. What if they decide to clone, for lack of a better word, their voices and use their voices in the outbound, and then, what happens if that SDR leaves? I mean, there are so many different aspects of ethics that are involved here in just sales alone. I mean, not to mention all of the other areas of that involve not only just running a business internally, but dealing with customers and vendors and partners and things like that externally. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to think about here, Stan.
Yep, absolutely. And when ChatGPT first came out, I remember having discussions about, okay, do when I write something in collaboration with ChatGPT, should I put at the bottom, written by Stan Robinson and ChatGPT or something to that effect?
Yep.
And one of the things that dawned on me was that at this point going forward, it is kind of a watershed moment because everyone is going to assume that AI
Yeah.
is involved in all content. They're just going to
Yep.
assume that. And and so ownership, provenance, whatever you want to call it, being able to correctly assign ownership to different forms of content is going to be an enormous issue. And of course, that goes way beyond sales.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. So for me, it's about everything that you, Stan, just said, but it's about a lot more too. So if you ever watched the older movie I, Robot with Will Smith, I'm not gonna go into what it was and things like that, but let's just say that's a rather dystopian example of AI running amok rather. So I don't think we're ever going to get to that point. But there are ethical considerations on a broader scale going on here. People are thinking, oh, it's going to dehumanize the world. It's going to make humans lazy, things along those lines. And I think in some cases that's starting to happen, but in a lot of other cases, I don't think that it is. But I do think that we need to think about the perception that AI has out there, even if the reality, as we know, it is different. But you know something? Perceptions are reality out there. People depend on perceptions being reality all the time. So we have to really work on that part. We have to practice what's being called responsible AI in everything that we do. Now, Stan knows I recently took a class at Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management called AI Applications for Growth, a mind-blowing class, I might add. If you want details on it, just reach out to me and I'll send you some stuff on it. But there we discuss four main tenets of responsible AI. So number one is fairness. Now, for salespeople, this comes along the lines of AI helping to identify potential clients and predict their needs, but it needs to be done in a way that avoids biases. And that's what Stan was talking about a little earlier. We cannot let bias work into anything that we do, whether it's identifying potential clients and predicting their needs, whether it is just the raw data that is getting ingested to train AI models, and that's starting to get a little far afield. But still, we really have to be very cognizant of that, because when AI was starting out originally, there were cases, and they've been well documented in the media rather, where AI was not being unbiased, was being biased towards or against certain groups or whatever. We have to make sure that we are really making sure that that doesn't happen, Stan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, and as you said, that's a large part of that is in the training of the
Hmm.
models, which is before they get to us, but the good news is that the level of awareness has been raised so much
Yep.
among the public and the rest of us that hopefully the providers will keep a tighter rein on that because they're being much more closely scrutinized than ever
Yes, they
before.
are. Yes, they are. And I mean, AI in general should be very closely scrutinized, but biases and fairness is definitely an area where that needs an extra hairy eyeball on it, basically. So I definitely agree with that. So, second, let's talk about transparency. And now we're talking about AI driven insights and recommendations when it comes to sales. So, if an AI system suggests a particular sales strategy, or if it predicts client behavior, it also needs to provide explanations on how these conclusions were reached. And there are a couple different reasons for this. Number one, you want to know where it's getting this stuff from. And number two, um, AI systems still have a tendency to what's called hallucinate, or I don't want to say lie. Lie is not a really good way of putting it, but it tends to create things, I think, just in an effort to please whomever is asking questions or whatever. And maybe it's not coming up with good stuff. So it's like, I'll just say this. Hopefully this person will be happy. But we can't have that. We need to have transparency so that we are knowing why AI is suggesting or recommending whatever it is recommending, Stan.
Yeah, and it's funny, as simple as it sounds, that you have people programming these sophisticated systems, and you just assume that the people writing the algorithms know how these systems arrive at their conclusions.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that's not the
They don't.
case.
They don't know all the
It's
time,
it's
which is
yes.
kinda scary. I mean, because once upon a time, programming, you used to program exactly what you wanted out of it, and if for some reason it wasn't giving you what you wanted, it was your dang fault because you did something wrong in the programming. That's not really happening anymore, which is interesting. It's kinda scary at the same time, but I mean, you really need to again keep that hairy eyeball on things to make sure that in this case exactly why AI is recommending, whatever it is recommending for you.
recommending. Yeah, yeah, and, it's funny, there's a whole field of study looking at, okay, how do these machines actually make the decisions or tell us what they're telling us?
Yep.
So, yep, big area.
Big area, yeah. So, another big area, number 3 on our top 4 list, I guess in this case, is accountability. And this is where sales teams rely on AI tools without fear of unintended consequences. So this means having systems in place to monitor AI actual decisions and being able to trace and understand these decisions. So that actually goes up to like numbers 1 and 2 that we just discussed. But I mean, there does need to be that human accountability there. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I don't think AI is going to take over, because if we're coding accountability very strongly into there, there's just no way it can, because humans still need to be a big part of that, whatever chain it is that you're looking to do in AI. Humans still need to be a big part of that. If we do let that go, we might get to iRobot. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, there's, um, a good book called Co-Intelligence by, I think he's a Wharton professor named Ethan Mollick that writes a lot about, AI. And one of the things he mentions is, always keep a human in the loop, as you alluded to earlier. So we
Mhm.
can't become over reliant on AI. We can't throw common sense out the window
Mhm.
because, as you said, these systems will hallucinate and they do want to please us. And the thing is, when they give us answers that are total fiction, they sound very plausible.
Very convincing. Very convincing. It's like, "Are you sure this is right?" "Oh, yeah, that's right." "Well, then tell me where you got it from." It's like, "Well, okay, I created that." I mean, it's just like, it's like that intern there on who is working with you on the very first day, and they just wanna make the best impression that they possibly can, and, they may let some things slip that may not necessarily be accurate. So, I mean, unlike interns, though, I mean, with AI, you can call them out and then even have them train on that so that they don't make that mistake in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So fourth, and by the way, before I forget, if you're joining us live right now, feel free to put questions or comments in chat. We will definitely address those as we go along. So fourth, we have privacy, and privacy is always rearing its head when it comes to anything having to do with tech, and obviously there's a good reason for that, because we all do want privacy. So here we're talking about protecting client data as well as corporate data, um, both of which are paramount in B2B sales. So our AI systems must comply with data protection regulations. And until there are regulations, we've got to like really look at this ourselves and basically say, hey, is this the type of stuff that I would want out in public? Chances are it's probably no. So until regulations come along, we are definitely at a point right now where we're regulating ourselves more than anything else. And you do that, of course, through implementing robust robust, whatever, security measures. So I think that that's really important, as especially with, I think, the self-regulation part, Stan, because Congress right now is just starting to get into this stuff. I think that they're actually moving faster than in other areas where Congress just, lawmakers just move really, really slowly. I think it's partially because Congress is also, especially in elections, is also really impacted by AI. So they're looking at this much more closely and taking it much more seriously. But privacy is obviously very important in terms of using AI in sales and anything having to do with business.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, one thing that businesses can do right away is put together some type of guidelines for their team
Yep.
because a lot of their team members are already using AI anyway,
Yep.
but you'd need to give them some type of guidelines. Like Bob, as you mentioned, please don't put confidential data into ChatGPT. because it might be used to train future models.
Right,
And
exactly.
the legal system and government regulators are scrambling to catch up.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really good segue to just talk really quickly about putting rubber to the road here when it comes to these 4 tenants. In other words, really look at implementing everything that what we've been talking about. So I could go into the type of detail here that would push most people to sleep when it comes to things like this. So back when I was taking my class, we really dove deep into it, and trying to sum everything up for a podcast is actually really, really difficult. But overall, if I were to boil it down, I would say it involves using diverse data sets, involving stakeholders in the AI development process, and then continuously monitoring AI systems for ethical compliance. So data in, people in, and then as data is coming out, whatever form that data is, making sure that it's all ethically compliant, both going in and coming out. So the human element never goes away when using AI, which again is a reason why I don't think we'll ever see a time when we'll be bowing down to our proverbial AI overlord, Stan.
yes, that is a hot topic because you have some of the leading thinkers in AI on both sides of questions ranging from existential risk to, how smart are these? Will they ever become sentient?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think two scientists who shared the Turing Award,
Hmm.
which is have opposite opinions as to how big a threat AI actually is.
Yeah. But I think
So,
if we're talking about this rather than if everyone starts agreeing about this stuff, that's where I think that we're in trouble, because you can't have groupthink on this. You really need to have diverse opinions, and that everybody is listening to other people's diverse opinions as well, which is unfortunately a very difficult thing for people to do nowadays. But we do have to really listen to all sides here, so that we can get AI that is ultimately responsible and really treats people fairly, and everything else that
exactly.
we just discussed.
Exactly. Yep, because I think one thing that both sides can agree on is that everyone needs to become better educated about AI so that we can have these types of discussions as far as what direction we should take it.
Yeah, so and that's a good segue into the next point that I wanted us to talk about, that I think that you have some thoughts on, in terms of, now let's expand this out to a little farther than just talking about companies use it, and talking about more society at large, and considering how AI initiatives are affecting the broader community, Stan, like jobs and things like that.
Yes, AI, trying to boil this down also, it's
Yeah,
going to have an impact on areas across society. So whether you're talking about government, education, legal, business, you name it, AI is going to impact those areas. And jobs,
yeah,
yes, I mean there's some job categories that are are not going to be here probably in 18 months as far as humans doing them.
right.
Um, and we'll have to be creative about what to do in those situations. So
Absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely.
so the jobs is just one, Bob. You've already mentioned bias,
Yep.
how these models are trained, and so that's why I mentioned that education is going to just be so important, um, and education beyond what the press reports, because the press reports what will sell,
Right.
which sadly is not always what is accurate.
Yeah, and fear sells, and that's what they're going to keep talking about. So, and people don't need to be fearful. You need to educate. You need to figure out not only how to use AI in your job, but how AI can help you in your job in ways that maybe your company doesn't even know about. Make yourself valuable to your company. How in whatever profession you're in at this point, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there are all kinds of ways that you can do this in sales, but there are other areas too where you can figure out how to help with AI to help you with your job that can help others too. So I think that that's really important. I think we should also be mindful of the environmental impact of AI. And here I'm talking about energy consumption of large AI models. And I'm not going to get into this because I'm not a real green person or whatever, but I do think that we need to keep in mind that AI does need to have that element of sustainability so that we can minimize negative impacts and contribute positively to the environment with AI. And I think an extreme example of that not happening is I always remember in the Terminator movies when they flash forward to the future and it's nothing but the robots and things like that moving around. It's an absolute hellscape because obviously nobody cares about the environment. AI doesn't care about the environment.
Yeah.
I'm not saying things are going to get like that, but we do need to at least keep that hairy eyeball on environmental impact because every once upon a time people were talking about that with like cloud computing, and then they were talking about that with cryptocurrency, and those are still going on too. So now you're
Yep.
putting AI on top of all this stuff. Just really need to keep an eye on it and make sure that we're not messing things up more than we've already messed them up.
Mm, yep. Yep. And
So
so,
I
yeah, good.
yeah. Yeah, so I wanna get to one really, really quick case study of responsible AI because we're talking about it, we should mention that, that it's actually being used out there, so companies are actually doing this. We're not talking about pie in the sky type of stuff. This is actually happening, it's actually going on. So there's a company called AltaML, I think that's how it's pronounced, ALTAML. So this is a company that builds AI tools for businesses. Hey, that's us. They've partnered with something called the Responsible AI Institute, and they're conducting, or they have conducted an organizational maturity assessment. Say that three times fast.
Mhm.
So it helps implement robust AI government structures. It also helps them enhance their market differentiation and reinforces their commitment to responsible AI practices. So they've got all this stuff going on at the same time, but they're being very proactive in terms of actually doing something about it because they're focusing on mitigating risks and enhancing trust as well. So they're actually now known evidently for being this type of company. So everything that you're doing in terms of responsible AI, hey, you can use that as well and say, hey, we are doing it the right way. Here's how we're doing it. You know, do business with us, for like lack of a better phrase, but to let people know that you are using AI, but you're doing it in the most responsible way partner or possible. I think
Yeah.
that there's nothing but good to be had there.
Yep. Yep. Great point, because there will be others who will not be using AI responsibly,
Yes, yeah, yeah,
sadly.
that is an unfortunate but true statement. So I
Yeah.
guess so I think we're just going to wrap things up here and just say, every day and essentially in every way we're being transformed with AI. We are transforming rather the sales landscape. We're getting incredible opportunities for growth as well as efficiency. But, like the old phrase says, with great power comes great responsibility. So we need to navigate the ethical boundaries of AI. There's just no other way around it. When we do this, we can harness. I have just been fumbling all morning long here. We can harness its potential while maintaining trust and integrity that are the bedrock of successful sales. And like I said before, you can actually promote this fact as well so that people are, it's like, hey, they're using AI, but they're really keeping an eye on it. And that's
Mhm.
good. So AI, I think, can be good, but we do really need to keep an eye on ethical considerations when it comes to AI. Stan, do you have anything else?
That's a great summary. I think we can agree, just keep the human in the loop. Keep the
Yes,
human in the loop.
as much as you possibly can. So, thanks again for joining us on this episode of Making Sales Social Live. If you're with us live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or X right now, we do this every week. So, keep an eye out for our live sessions. If you're listening to us on our podcast, it means that we're recorded and hopefully you've subscribed to us already. If not, go ahead and hit that subscribe or follow button. If you'd like more information just in general on our podcast, it's at socialsaleslink.com/podcast. So when you are out and about this week and every week, be sure that your sales are
Social.
Stan playing Bryn there and doing it very well. Thanks for everything, everybody. We're glad we are here. See you next time. Bye bye.
Bye now.